Thanks, Sophia. Here's something interesting. All kinds of things you find in the bush sometimes. This might even have been from the jigger, or one of the game drive vehicles, obviously just a sort of a general purpose cloth on the car. One of two things, either just got pulled off by a branch, or otherwise maybe it got taken. Hyenas pick up the weirdest things sometimes. Bits of rubbish or even sticks sometimes. Carry it around for a while. A little bit dirty, but in the workshop cloths like this are always handy. We're walking along a bit of a footpath here, animal footpath, so obviously animals use this quite often. It's not but nonetheless, impalas and so on often moving along, and this is probably why this bush is so thorny. This acacia looks like a flaky bark acacia, and if you come a bit closer to it, have a look at the thorns. You see it's covered in thorns. Obviously at the moment no leaves on it, but once the rains come and once you've got leaves on this, animals will be browsing it a lot. Being next to a path like this means it gets eaten often. Means the tree responds by having lots of thorns. Now the thorns don't actually stop animals from eating it, it just slows them down. So that they eat less of it and the tree still does alright. You can imagine it's almost like a porcupine, covered in thorns. Here's an interesting one. Obviously, guys would cut wood here for the use of the lodge and also for us around camp sometimes. And I presume they've cut, but they haven't come and gathered here yet. A bit of a wood pile. Unless it's the baboons. Keep themselves warm in winter. Lovely acacia, look at this tree. Sometimes hard to imagine how old these trees are. I mean, the scar alone, if you look at the bark that's been stripped here from it, could have been. There's a bit of break up there. We've just passed some trees. Hopefully it'll be better again. Just a termite mound up ahead here that I want to have a look at. Looks like quite an interesting one. This would be interesting termite mound to observe for a while. If you come and stand maybe a little bit closer, Herman. Just look at all the holes in it. Magnitude of different sizes, holes, all the way around. We'll have a look at the other side just now as well. Look at all those entrances. Now this termite mound would almost certainly have a variety of animals in it. I would expect even something like a monitor lizard to use it occasionally, almost certainly some kind of snake, and then lots of different insects and spiders and smaller things. Biting me here. Have a look around this side a bit. Unfortunately, these little berries aren't ripe yet. I mentioned the name this morning. This is a bushman's grape. You can see the berries. They can go like a darker maroon color when they're ripe. You can actually eat them. Bit of a creeper plant. This one is quite old. doesn't really get big. It sort of stays a creeper or a bush. Oh well, here we see what lives here most of the time. Come and look at this side. So on the northern side or northeastern side, look at all the droppings here. Loads of droppings. It shows us that it's most likely one of the more permanent group of dwarf mongoose. Dwarf mongoose don't necessarily live in one place. They'll often live in 2 or 3 different places. So sort of like having a beach house and a mountain house and a city house within this area. So this group would maybe have an area a couple of hectares big, and there's a number of termite mounds around, and a few of those they would use as places to sleep. Most of those they would use as bolt holes at some stage or another to get away from predators or threats, but there'd be sort of 2 or 3 or 4 places that they prefer to stay at. This one doesn't look like they've lived recently. The reason I said is these droppings, none of them are very fresh. There's a little bit of fresh ones, maybe from a week or so ago, but it looks like they're probably at the moment using one of the other den sites, and then they'll use this one again. It's always good to move around a bit. If you stay in the same place all the time, then you've got predators that can learn that you live there, and they can maybe learn more and more how to catch you there. But also parasites, ticks and fleas and all kind of stuff that you can find in the burrows or in the dens. If you move around a little bit, it tends to keep them more hygienic as well. Beautiful tip on this. See if we can see these birds maybe. Well, you don't see all that often. I've seen them a few times on drive. They're always quite skittish and they like this thicker stuff, riverine habitats and so on. There you can see one flying off. Red-billed voodoo poo. Fortunately they're being difficult to see. I mean, if you come a little this way, can you see the one that's sitting by the green bush lower down? So it must fly away at any second. You can see it just checking all different places, different dead trees, especially under the bark, in the little nooks and crannies. These guys have got long curved beaks, perfectly designed for perfectly designed for extracting little insects and beetles and all kinds of little small life that lives normally around tree areas. They can hunt in the ground or look for food in the ground, but typically they like to look in amongst branches and dead bark. Red-billed wood hoopoes, quite a name.